Today we're talking to Andy. Andy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
He said, mate, so he's from New Zealand. I'm Australian, so it's good to see somebody from the Southern Hemisphere on the show. Andy, why don't you tell us a bit about your backstory and your work experience in construction?
Yeah, so I've been in the construction industry for pretty much my whole life, I suppose. Yeah, I've been in controls and planning. So I recently launched my company called Strategic Planning, which focuses on time management in the construction industry, managing programs for large-scale projects or mega projects in New Zealand. Yeah, a $300 million project is a mega project, but where you're from, that's probably a small project, which is the truth. But yeah, so that's kind of what I do, and I've done all my life. And I've worked at big construction companies called Fletcher's here for most part of my time. And in the middle of COVID, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go on my own, and it's been an interesting journey so far. Been pretty good, yeah.
I noticed that one of your earlier roles was data-driven project control specialist.
It's still a current role, actually.
Okay, so tell us about that and sort of how it led you to setting up the company about strategic planning.
So I've built my company around being data-driven project control specialists, right? That's what strategic planning stands for. What during my planning career, I've kind of realized that the uptake of digitalization in construction is not great. If you compare construction with any other industry, construction is the uptake of digitalization is the lowest in comparison to retail, banking, any other sector in the world, right? And the amount of pieces of software that people use in the construction industry is just one too many. None of them are centralized. Nobody uses the central a data lake to then get valuable insights. So, are you aware of the data triangle and how the data triangle works?
Somewhat, but please tell the audience.
Yeah, cool. So, you've got your base set of data, which is just signals, inputs, which then you provide context to, and it becomes information, and you provide meaning to, it becomes wisdom, right? So when you get wisdom is where you have really well structured data, informed analytics, where you're making good data driven decisions, and that's been one of my key challenges in the construction industry, where not a lot of data driven decisions get made. Yeah, there are a lot of emotional ones. Yeah, I go, yeah. Why do you have to do it that way? That's because how we've always done it. I'm like, can we think about it differently? Can we challenge the norm? So that's my challenge. That's what I love doing. I'm really passionate about that. But I want cold hard facts, evidence to be able to make those decisions, right? So I've always given this example in the past. I've said, every day evening at 5 o'clock, if Google turned around and sent you a notification and said, "Hey Todd, it's going to take you 20 minutes to get to Andy's house, and there's 5 minutes of traffic," and you go, I'm not getting to Andy's house. But instead, if it said if your phone sends you a notification and says it's going to take Todd 20 minutes to get to Todd's house and there's no traffic, that's valuable information to you. So
Right.
It's all about getting the right information to the right people at the right time. Yep. And that's my key focus, if you will, in construction.
Got it. So then some of your experience in that particular role has sort of been the tipping point for you to jump in. So can you round out how that experience has shaped your understanding of what is planning intelligence for construction projects? What is it that you learned in that role that's allowed you to bring that forward to today?
So if you look at my background and my experience, I've worked in oil and gas, iron and steel manufacturing, telco, construction. I've had varying different industries, but I've done the same role. Yep, it's always been controls and planning. I haven't changed roles. I've learned different things from different industries, and when I came to construction, I was just like, guys, you guys are doing everything terribly. There's so many different ways you can work together collaboratively. Typically, what happens in a construction project is a team gets set up on site. and everybody starts working in silos. The QS doing their own thing independently from the planner who's writing the program, and the construction guys just turn around and say, "I know how to build better." But how about we turn all of that around and start working collaboratively together with a common focus and a common goal? How do you bring that culture together? I mean, this is the experience I've had in New Zealand, at least. I'm not sure how the rest of the world is. I'm guessing it's the same from the conversations I've had with other people around the world, a few conversations. But it's interesting. And I want to try and break down those silos and get people working together for a common purpose.
But you've started a podcast called Yarns with Andy.
Yeah.
And so is the goal to educate the industry to knock down those silos? What's the sort of impetus for starting that?
It's a really interesting question, mate. Thanks for asking that. So the reason I started the podcast, I never dreamed I'd start a podcast, but I have a great social media team that said I should. I'm an extrovert, so it comes naturally to me. But the main reason I started the podcast was I wanted to provide a platform for people to come and share the critical challenges that they're facing on job sites. Yep. Influence positive change in the industry and promote digitalization. Yep. So if you look at the key problems, like, projects that have issues and they've come out of those problems and, dealt with it, all of those lessons just get lost. Yep. They don't get shared with the industry. They don't even get shared within the company. Yep. So how do you learn from your previous mistakes so you don't repeat them again? So part of the key challenge was how do I share that message with everybody? How do I get people to share the journeys that they've been on challenging jobs, on critical problems in the industry to influence positive change in the industry? That's the main reason for me starting the podcast.
So I was thinking about this quote. I think it's Dwight Eisenhower, and I'm no historian or American historian for sure. I think it was a general in the army or something. But he said something to the effect of plans are worthless, but planning is everything.
Right.
And so there's that dichotomy of the two. In your view, like, how do you make sure that people are planning but not over planning because they've got to react to what happens on a job site and design changes and weather delays and things like that? But how do you take that push-pull of what Dwight Eisenhower mentioned?
Yep. So I strongly believe, change is the only constant, right? Inevitably, I've never written a tender program that was delivered 110% exactly the same as built, right? Something's got to change. Something will change. I believe it comes down to effective communication and good change management processes set in place, right? So you don't write a 20,000 line program that you're unable to communicate. Why would you do that? Right? It doesn't make any sense. How do you so you have a little process on how this works. It's just working in my head right now. So how do you get a clear work breakdown structure, a consistent work breakdown structure? Because that's literally what helps you communicate better. Yeah, your level 1, level 2, level 3 work breakdown structure. But my level 1 is the whole project. So in my head, that's a spatial element. It's the biggest spatial element. Next, you break it down to, say, you go in design, procurement, construction, design, consenting, procurement, construction, completion. So that is your kind of process flow. So at the second level, you have processes, and then the third level down, you may break it up into subspatial elements. Building 1, building 2, building 3. Yep. And then you further break it down into a process. Again, it's a detailed process of construction, which is piling, substructure, superstructure, so on and so forth. But I believe that consistency goes a long way. Yeah. Because now you can go, I want to communicate the level 3 of my program to different people for various reasons. Yep. What I find in a lot of programs that I pick up from other people, that consistency is always lacking, because that's not how somebody on site, that's not how their brain works. Yeah. Not structured data doesn't exist. And structured data is so critical. Given that we're in the age of AI and ChatGPT has taken over, even more so now, structured data is valuable.
Right. I'd be interested to know from the audience, what they think about planning. How far do you go down planning? When do you pull back? How do you change or deal with change management? Leave some comments below.
I'm looking forward to the comments, I said.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear different perspectives. So
Yeah.
we really do encourage people to drop a comment there. And you're thinking about that data-driven project control. So have you got any examples where that led to more successful outcomes for a particular project? Any key insights from those experiences?
Yeah. So if you look at my website, I have something called Diamond Project Modeling, where I've correlated a work breakdown structure to cost, a cost breakdown structure to a model breakdown structure to the organizational breakdown structure, right? How I've correlated the four of those things. I've literally built a company, which is strategic planning, of that one principle, right? Um, so some of the ways I'm adopting that technology is here's a really interesting example, actually. So on one of the job sites that I've been on, I've created a 4D model. I've linked the 3D model with the program seamlessly 110%. And what I've done is I've taken a snapshot of what the site should look like at the end of every month. Yep. Just a visual and said, yep, end of July, end of August, September. This is what your site should look like. Yeah. I'm not giving them lines on a piece of paper. I'm not giving them 20-page program to read, digest, and understand once. So what I've done is I've gone and stuck these images up in A0, and suddenly now I go on a site month end and I go, all right, let's get a status update of the project. What's the site? Come back. And funnily enough, I don't have to come up with creative ways of telling people that they're in delay anymore. Yeah, the perspective's now changed. They go, right, I'm supposed to be like that. I mean, I know where I need to be at the end of the month. That's not what the site looks like, but here are the reasons why. They already preempt that they're in delay, but they've already started thinking about mitigation plans in their head. And that's a fundamental shift for me because for 10 years of my career, I've sat down on the other end saying, we've lost a week in a week, guys. What are we going to do about it? You know, how can we think about this differently? Here's your critical path. How do we mitigate it? Now that's completely changed where they come in and telling me we're in delay. What can we do with the program? Which is amazing. It's like mind blowing for me. Yeah, I love it.
So it sort of leads me to some of the challenges. So that's a really good example of how to keep things on track. But what are some of the things that take these projects off track? And sort of a two-part question is around data collection. So there's a lot of ways to collect data. Does that come into part of the challenge when you're trying to provide the data that you can't collect it in the first place?
Absolutely. The number of different softwares used by construction companies is, like I said earlier, is insane, right? And the problem is there isn't a particular data lake where all of this information is collected. Your time-related data, your cost-related data, your quality-related data, health and safety-related data, your spatial information. They're all just disparate information. None of it's linked together, so you can kind of run analytics on to make good data-driven decisions. That's the key challenge here. So how do we get a data lake with all of this information talking to one another? Yep.
So
I don't have a silver bullet that answers that question, but
no, and there aren't any yet. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's a challenge for everybody listening and yourself, I suppose. Like, how do we make that data more useful to people so they can then make good decisions based on that data?
So you mentioned earlier AI, generative AI, ChatGPT, and so on. And at the time of filming, it's October 2023. Things are changing rapidly. That's why I have to mention the date. But we're thinking about, in your mind, what's coming next? What is some of the technology advances that you're really excited about that you think are going to help project control and planning, or even revolutionize the way that the companies execute their projects?
Yeah, I strongly believe QSs are going to be out of a job very soon. A bold statement, I know, sorry. But think about it. You do quantity takeoffs. Well, why can't you push a button from a 3D model to do quantity takeoffs? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you then use production rates from the quantity takeoffs to create your basic program? Because, your model's got highlights of steel, level 1, so on and so forth, concrete pour, so on and so forth. So then you now add a verb and a noun. It's, pour concrete. install steel. So that's pretty easy to create. Generative AI, use production rates to derive durations, and half your program's built for you. I'd be out of a job pretty soon too, you know. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we're all going to get made redundant, but we're going to find new problems to solve.
Yeah.
And it's how quickly we adapt to the change of what ChatGPT is bringing into the mix. I think yeah, I'm really excited for what the future holds, because I just want to be able to sit here, push a button, and have half my program written for me, and I don't do all the data entry stuff. You know, I hate the
Yeah.
data entry stuff. I like the critical thinking aspect. You know, that challenges my thinking. But the data entry, if ChatGPT can do that for me, great.
Yeah, I think the critical thinking is an interesting point. I've been in plenty of meetings where a quantity surveyor is adding a lot of value through critical thinking,
Yep.
helping architects and structural engineers design, even if the really good ones do.
Yep.
So I think I mentioned before in another episode that the comment that's becoming pretty common, which is that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody using AI will.
100%.
So yeah, it's a matter of just jumping on board with it.
I do have another example of how I'm using AI. Which is quite beneficial for me right now. It saves me hours of my day. When I'm doing delay analysis, I've actually trained one of my chat bots in ChatGPT, one of the chats, to just intake Primavera P6 information, raw information, and literally write the root cause of delay for me, just from the raw information I feed it from P6, which is nice. I mean, it's taken me a day or so to kind of get it to the level I wanted to, but now it's just copy, paste. And I've changed a few subtle things that I do in P6, and mate, it's just saves me so many hours. It's crazy.
That's a cool example. Again, for the viewers, I'd really like to see in the comments, how are you using AI? Let's keep it focused on the positive and not be too skeptical about it. Just give us some examples of how it's helped you in your day. It'd be good to see those comments below. So just thinking then about measuring success. So Andy, you've got lots of moving parts here, lots of data, lots of conversations and communication, but how do you really measure and what metrics or indicators do you consider most important? Are you leading, lagging? Where do you stand?
So, on a construction site, how do you measure success? Why complicate it? Simplify it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finish on time, finish on budget, finish it to immaculate quality, the least amount of defects. And, get everybody home every day. Don't stress people out. It's not hard. It's really not difficult. Those are your 4 key measures of success. If you're doing that in any job site, think about it, you're winning. Because I don't think there's one job site out there that can tick all 4 boxes. They're either over budget, the quality's poor, running behind time.
All of those things are at the end of a project or at the end of a day, getting people home safely and not stressed out. But is there anything in particular that you look at? Is it, how long it takes the jump form to go up to the next level, or how many picks the crane had? Is there anything in particular that stands out for you?
Every time I set up a job, I set up those key performance measures, which I call key performance measures. And I break them down based on which part of the job they're in. Substructure, you measure the amount of real amount of concrete. Superstructure, you measure steel, quantity of steel installed per day. And I run SCAVs for all of those key performance measures all the way through the job. So the teams know whether they're on, when they compare budget to actual on an SCAV, they know whether they're ahead, behind, how they're tracking, and what they can do to influence positive change, or what the flow and impact of that particular delay is having onto the project. So, my suggestion would be pick what portion of the job it is, substructure, superstructure, fit out, and pick your key measure. If you, in simple facts, if you don't measure, you don't manage, right?
So, final question that I have is really around, what if you had one message to the industry about making a particular change that you would like to see, that really would push the industry forward, what would that change be?
Effective communication. Yep, crystal clear, effective communication. Break down the silos. Break down the silos that we've got in the construction industry. Communicate better. And when I say effective communication, a 30-page Gantt chart is not effective communication.
That's right.
Yeah, it's about get the right message to the right person at the right time so they can make a good data-driven decision. That'll go a long way.
Excellent. Plain and simple. I like it. Andy, thank you for your time. It's been great to hear your perspective from down under, and we look forward to having you on the show in the future.
Sounds great, mate. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. Cheers, Tom.
All right. Take care. Thanks to everyone watching. If you'd like to see more of this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.